Hi, John.
Hey, Alex.
Do you know what I hate?
What do you hate?
Getting trapped under a Trans Am.
We've all been there.
Really?
Yeah, oh yeah. That's a rite of passage in Nebraska.
Oh, I assume that was just like a weird, because like Trans Ams are very, young Italian men thing. So I just assumed it was a New Jersey thing where every single one of my friends at some point has been either trapped under or, kidnapped and then trapped under.
No, it happened all the time. And I mean, we had our own little Italy. There was Sbarro's, Godfather's Pizza, mainly just pizza places.
Authentic.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we watched Prisoners.
I'm a prisoner to the flavor of pizza.
I'm a prisoner to deliciousness. All right, so here's my overall consuming thought on this movie that I want to present to you. I think Denis Villeneuve is the best director working right now, even though this movie's from like a decade ago. Any other director, I think I would have hated this movie, and I absolutely adored it. Like, I love this movie, but like literally any other director, like I would be like, it would be insufferable. But this is
David Fincher,
great. Yeah, this easily could have been a David Fincher, and it's not.
Right, but you said any other director.
No, I'm saying would make it suck.
Right. So David Fincher would make it suck?
Yes.
How?
Even though this is a very David Fincher movie, it would make it suck.
Okay.
Well, David Fincher in 2003 would probably do a good job.
All right. I'm going to disagree about the level of effusiveness in your praise. I don't think he's necessarily the best director ever or working currently, I should say. But I didn't hate this movie. I overall enjoyed this movie.
Well, who's better, John? What, Martin Scorsese?
A little guy named Taika Waititi.
Hey, that's true. He's so funny.
Yeah.
He's got that accent.
And it never gets tiresome. The same jokes just never get old.
He's a rock,
yeah.
But he talks like he's from New Zealand. It's no crazy. Rocks in New Zealand.
And they kind of mumble. It's fun. It's fun stuff.
Oh, God.
No, I shouldn't shout it too much. But no, I think there's plenty of other directors that do great work.
I don't hear you giving me a list. I want a comprehensive list of 5 directors that are better than Denis Villeneuve working right now.
Seth MacFarlane. I don't think Mark Wahlberg might as well direct.
I like him as a singer.
Yeah.
Both of them actually like better as a singer.
I saw a clip of him and Bill Maher. Bill Maher's got some stupid internet show. And like Bill Maher is complaining about COVID and he's getting schooled by Seth MacFarlane.
Yeah.
Like, God, how dumb do you have to be to get schooled by Seth MacFarlane?
You know, I just realized you named 2 people that were supposed to be on the 9/11 flights or have a 9/11 connection.
Was Bill Maher supposed to be there?
No. Seth MacFarlane.
No, I know the Seth MacFarlane story. I just didn't know if Bill Maher was...
No, Mark Wahlberg.
Oh, Mark Wahlberg, yeah.
Remember he said that if he was on the flights, he would have beaten up the terrorists?
That would have been amazing.
Do you think when he punches in real life, he goes, feel it?
Most likely, at least mentally. As long as he stays prayed up.
So this movie stars Hugo Jackman. I literally wrote his down as Hugo Weaving about 6 times.
That's normal.
But it's a huge Jackman.
Very similar guys. Extremely similar.
I think they're both Australian.
That's true.
They're both like musicals.
They both inhale oxygen.
They both have weird teeth.
Does Hugh Grant... I'm sorry.
I have no idea. I literally have no idea. I was just trying to go back to the teeth. Like,
well, I just call him Hugh Grant, so I blew my standing entirely.
Yeah, there you go. That's your weird Wonka obsession that you've been on.
That's true. I'm always wonking off.
It's an interesting thing with this one that I've got a good ear for accents. I'm gonna go ahead and give myself a compliment. And Hugh Jackman's accent is not bad, but it's very strained. Like, it very much sounds like a guy really trying to do, and he's doing a good, I'm trying to do an American accent. But in the compliment wise, this is like the best acting I've seen of him, of Hugh Jackman. And it made me forget the accent. Because there's one scene I'm like, oh my God, that was fucking amazing. And I was like, oh, I wasn't even thinking about his dumb accent. Wow, good job, sir.
Yeah, it's interesting to see him play this role in the, like most people, I've mainly seen him in Marvel movies and musicals, I guess. So I haven't, seen him like use that sort of ferociousness in a less sort of cartoony way. I thought was pretty interesting.
Yeah, it was nice. He reminds me, like, Oh, no, it reminds me. It brings to mind how much superhero movies have really ruined a lot of society. That we could have had. This guy could have been a great actor,
Mhm.
and like he could have been a who's Aragorn.
Viggo Mortensen.
Yeah, he could have been another Viggo Mortensen, where it's like, yeah, you're Aragorn, but like you got over it and you just did really good work after that.
But then you only remember him as Aragorn.
Well, no. I wasn't going to say the guy from Eastern Promises,
Okay.
because then you'd bring up I only like that movie because of that one scene.
That's true.
Yeah, no, but it was just it was one of those like, ah, man, like I mean, I like Marvel movies, I like the superhero stuff, but this actually kind of made me feel a little like maybe we missed out on a really good actor
Well,
because
yeah,
he was
just
too
it's
busy
the
growling.
all-encompassing nature of them. That's the issue. You know, that's the thing
Yeah.
with like part of Martin Scorsese's thing about it was just like, yeah, they're everything. Yeah, they're everywhere. You know, that's fine. The movies like this should exist. That's fine. But just that's like all we're doing.
Yeah, and for Hugh Jackman, it's like it ate so much of his like viable career years. I mean, he's got still he's not like super old, but still,
Yeah.
it's
He's done other things. But certainly, like most people know him as Wolverine or any more Ryan Reynolds' friend or something.
well, I know him first as Jean Valjean.
Yeah.
And then I don't even know if he was Jean Valjean. He was in that, right?
I believe so. Yes. Yeah, it's a
Yeah.
musical. I'm assuming he was in.
Yeah. Or is Russell Crowe Jean Valjean?
Russell Crowe is
No,
Javert.
he's Javert.
Yeah.
Yeah. Look at us knowing words from Les Mis.
Oh, I that was like the first musical I think I went to. I got to see that on Broadway actually.
You know what I saw on Broadway?
Feces.
No, well, yes, many times, but also Cats, Now and Forever
Oh.
in the Winter Garden Theater,
Nice.
and it's not in. It doesn't exist anymore.
No, it doesn't.
The theater's probably still there.
Yeah.
But,
So forever is over.
So speaking of that, we're talking about one major criticism for this movie, and it's an early on one. What kind of balls do you have as a screenwriter to name someone Loki?
You know, even before, you know, talk about superheroes taking over.
Yeah.
Even before that was like this known thing. That's Thor's brother. That's what's his butt. Why am I blanking on that actor's name? Tom Hiddleston. Like, it was still like waiting for the shoe to drop. Like, okay, so this is going to mean something, right? And it doesn't.
There's a lot about him that's weird. So, like, one, the name. Two, he's got astrological symbols on his knuckles.
And a cool ring.
Did you see what was on the cool
yeah.
ring?
Of course I did.
the-
They made it pretty prominent.
The Masonic symbol,
Mm-hmm.
which was weird because they kept showing it.
Mhm.
And he has a pinky ring,
So
which I mean,
that means you're a cool guy.
oh no, I was gonna say the opposite. I think that you immediately pinky ring means immediately you've either sold people or you've killed someone.
Yeah, I don't know. I just don't have I have a general distrust of dudes with rings in general. I have a general distrust in general. But no, I kind of like unless you're like married or something like that. But if you're just like wearing rings, like let me rephrase. Maybe just cis white dudes wearing rings weirds me out. I always feel like there's something nefarious going on, or you're gonna do a magic trick at me or something.
Yeah, the magic trick part, I totally get that. For me, it's mostly just pinky rings and thumb rings on men. To really just go like, oh, there's something happening.
But
here
toe
that-
rings.
Yeah, I try not to look at people's feet. I think feet are disgusting. When I was a young man, I was friends with this guy that I'll leave his last name out because his dad was in business, in quotes. He used to powder his chest. Like he'd walk around the house powdering his chest. He was but he had a pinky ring, and it was very like, he was in business.
Right. Yeah.
That was his
Yeah.
job. He was a businessman.
Anthony Soprano.
Yeah, that's what I thought they were going with Gyllenhaal in this because he's got that like nautical star thing that like Russian mob people have. So I don't know. I don't really.
I think
I liked Gyllenhaal a lot in this, but his character didn't make a ton of sense, or at least the accoutrement.
Yeah, I
of his
think
character.
the idea for his character, the tough detective Loki, because he mentions to the priest at one point that he was raised in a home, you know. So I think part of the idea is that he himself has this past that maybe he's done some bad things, but he's overcome that or something because he's got some very weird tics and stuff, and seems like there's a chance for a lot of violence with him as well. Like not simmer or not completely overflowing the way that Hugh Jackman is, but definitely there's a low simmer that happens with him that you think like something bad could happen.
Gyllenhaal's like a sneaky good actor. for me, where because I met him, because parasocial relationships that I'm in, when he was still super young, it's like I kind of forget that he grew up to be like a legitimate actor. Like in my head, he's still from, oh my God, the world's freezing.
Oh, The Day After Tomorrow.
Yeah. Like that's my kind of touchstone for him. So it's like I see him in this, it's like, oh no, you're really good. Like you grew up to be like a really good actor.
Yeah, I think I'm trying to think. I know there's someone else that I've been through that with. Maybe it was Dave Bautista, but like something that for a while it was like, oh right, I forget that you're actually decent. But he's great. I mean, obviously totally, we've done Nightcrawler on the show before, and he's very good in that. But I do like him in this, and I like his weird blink acting that he does.
I thought that was gonna get on my nerves, but he did it sparingly, or they didn't linger on it in a way that it
didn't become anything. It worked. So it was just this affectation that he had, that like I think added to that, like that tenseness about him. But it wasn't like, well, I blinked so much because I saw something and I'm trying to get it out of my eyes.
Yeah, that would be really annoying.
That was my Jake Gyllenhaal impression, apparently.
Oh, really? I thought that was an impression of some guy that was visited by the Sandman, Neil Gaiman's gothic masterpiece, The Sandman, now available on Netflix. So opening this movie, I knew nothing about it. What I knew was Wolverine was in it, and it's called Prisoners. All the Jesus stuff in the beginning was, I don't know if it did anything.
I think it works. I mean,
I don't hate it, but there was a lot of it. Like there was it opens with a song about Jesus, and then the RV's playing a Jesus song, and Hugh Jackman's got a cross in his car. Like it was weird because like there's one of the. I don't want to talk about this out of order, but I just have to bring it up because this is like one of the themes I'm reacting to in the movie. Where this movie to me is about how shitty American males are.
Well, that's like part of it, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that kind of like bullshit Christianity is part of it, but like they didn't do enough to have that like really drive it home for me. So it was. I'm not trying to like improve the movie. I just like it just kind of left me a little wanting, where it's like either turn into that skid a little bit more or don't.
I think it worked well for Hugh Jackman and like some of the way that his character develops. Some of it I think is we're all prisoners in our own way, and these belief systems that he has that he thinks he believes in but clearly doesn't. But like there's not really a counterpoint to that in terms of like this has been rendered false in his eyes. But just like the way he behaves has nothing to do with what his beliefs are, what his stated beliefs are.
Well, that's why it's like, I think this is like a very much a reflection of like modern American Christianity, where they're literally the opposite of Christ in the book. Most of them don't believe in the book. Christ would be a, woke libtard to them if they actually like paid attention to it. So it's interesting. So, but from that point, so that's there. And that's, I think that's like important to the film, but it's kind of it's contrarto. I can't think of the right word. I'm going with that. Is the family, the kidnapping people who we kill children to spit in the face of God or whatever. I get it. We're not generally child kidnappers and killers. You don't really. You're not like, oh, these guys are going to have like wisdom and really got to buy it. But it's just weird that that's set up as like almost the opposite. I don't know. There was a little, maybe I'm just a little sensitive about Christianity these days, but
certainly there's a lot to say about the third act, I guess we could call it that. That we could wait to get into there because I think it lets down the movie a little bit. Sort of compared to it's like, I think this movie's, without giving too much away, like I guess right up front, I'll say that I think this movie's great. And then it reminds you that you're watching just a police procedural. It like becomes a book I got at the airport to read on a plane.
And how would you know what that's like?
Well, I didn't say I read the book. It's like a book.
Oh, gotcha.
Because it has a cool name like, Ludlow's Massacre or something like that. Nah, that's dumb. Whatever.
Dragon Rider 40K.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I'm kind of with you. I just couldn't come up with another way to end the movie. So I'm letting it off the hook a little bit because it's not like it's a bad third act. It's not like it's not even the whole third act. It's like the kind of end point. But I can't, like in my head, I can't imagine anything other than it just going super bleak. Well, and not to get into spoilers, going like really off.
That's kind of what I was not hoping for, but more, I guess more sort of expecting.
I'm kind of with you there.
But
yeah.
in the same way that, I don't know if you ever saw the movie Hard Candy with Elliot Page and Patrick Wilson.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Did it hinge? The whole plot of the movie hinges on, did he or did he not do this thing? And because it comes down on one side of it, I think it sucks. Like it's like anything that was interesting beforehand becomes not interesting. And it's not like that's the same case with this, but I do think that it for all like as complex and gray and difficult as some of the earlier stuff is, it kind of felt a little like neatly wrapped up.
I rarely say this about movies, but I think this probably would have served to be slightly longer. I think the end just felt rushed and didn't. We'll get to the end when we get to it. I just, there's a lot to talk about.
But I guess the scriptwriter said the original version was like 3 hours.
Yeah, I'm not saying it needs to be 3 hours because I'd probably bitch about that. It just felt the end felt a little wanting.
Yeah.
But this movie combines my two favorite creepy that guy actors. Well, Paul Dano is not really so much a that guy actor anymore. He's,
right.
But Paul Dano
He's a
and
big
David
time creepy
Dastmalchian.
actor.
Yeah, and David Dastmalchian,
Yeah.
who are, I mean, that guy is the best. And I'm like, oh, they're in the same movie. This is terrific.
I got excited because as soon as you see that suspect sketch, I'm like, oh, I know who that is.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. That's the fucking Polka Dot King himself,
Yep.
or the fucking character he played in that.
Yeah, nothing but good things to say about David Dastmalchian.
David Dastmalchian, low key is like, so I had this argument for a while that, they say the thing of like the actor that's made the most money, like, the movies that he's been in that made the most money. I had a long running argument before kind of the Marvel days that it was Warwick Davis because he was in all the Harry Potters and like a lot of the Star Warses. But David Dastmalchian is kind of like low key doing that too. Cause like a lot of like directors kind of fall in love with him and they just throw him in also like James Gunn, Villeneuve and Nolan.
Yeah.
That's many billions of dollars right there.
Yeah, I mean, he's what I love about him is that he's a weird horror freak, and like he just loves doing that stuff. It's great. He seems very much like into it. I have some personal connections, like friend of a friend or whatever, that has had interactions with him that is nothing but lovely.
Yeah, he was on Doug Loves Movies once, or some podcast I listened to, and he seemed like a really good guy.
Nice.
Good guy.
Good dude.
Great hair. Yeah.
This is another Denis Villeneuve movie, lensed. I hate that word. Shot by Roger Deakins, who I think does a really great job here, and like made me oddly miss that kind of shitty. It's February in the Midwest kind of, or East Coast weather. Where it's like it's clearly been around. Everything's just gray and it's rainy, but then there's still a chance for snow. This part where it combines. It just is a bummer season, but it still made me go like, oh, I kind of miss that. I kind of miss that bleakness.
This movie made me miss the East Coast a little bit because this is like a very like Pennsylvania, Massachusetts-y, like it's got that vibe to it.
It does.
Like, oh yeah, I do.
It takes place in Pennsylvania.
Is that where it is?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. The newspaper is like PA something.
Mm-hmm.
I remember reading that. Yeah, my first kind of note acting was because a lot of my notes are like I really like the acting in here, but fucking Hugh Jackman when he's talking to Detective Loki, and he's like when he doesn't understand why Paul Dano ran away, I'm like, oh my god, that's good. Like it's good writing, it's good acting, and I was like, I was not prepared for it because it's Hugh Jackman.
Yeah,
I was expecting him to like go snicked or something.
So Hugh Jackman plays Keller Dover. Which okay. But yeah, his name's Keller Dover, and he and his wife and his family.
Keller Dover, I barely know her.
Yeah. Because it took me a while because I thought their last name was Keller at first. Like they were just calling him by the last name. I'm like, wait, then who's Dover? But
well, I guess if your name's Dover, you probably want to go by Keller.
Yeah. I mean, I've known a Keller, but his last name was not Dover, so I was confused.
I knew a Dover, but his first name was Bender.
But anyway, they go to they walk over with his wife, older son, and young daughter, go over to a friend's house for Thanksgiving to hang out. That friend, couple played by Viola Davis, who I think is criminally underutilized in this, unfortunately. When she's there, she's great. Which is funny because like she had just won an Oscar in 2012. And I do think, I don't know if there was one between that and this. I should have looked that up, but there's a trend of actresses being in, probably actors do, but being in like really shitty movies Like Aeon Flux was right after Charlize Theron won for Monster. Catwoman came out right after Halle Berry won for
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Monsters Ball. But so this isn't that, but at the same time, it's like you have this I think 2-time Academy Award winner at this point. And I just
you're not doing much.
yeah,
with
but when she's there, she's great. But anyway, and the husband is Terrence Howard, which I thought was hilarious because I think he's a big weirdo. But he was not weird in this. So
I like Terrence Howard, but only as a mathematician. Is his theory on new math is
God, I forgot about that.
I think it's groundbreaking. Yeah.
It was about how like
what was it?
2 can't equal 2 or something, or
I think it was 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2.
yeah.
It was something flat earthy.
That's a
like
beautiful
that.
mind.
Yeah.
Keller Dover's daughter has a whistle that she lost and wants to walk back to the house with Viola Davis's daughter to go find it. In doing so, they disappear.
What are the kids' names? Anna and something.
Eliza.
Anna and Eliza. Yeah, Eliza's a tough one for me to get my head around.
Mm-hmm. But they before on the way they took a little walk earlier, and the kids were playing on a creepy RV that was.
Which, by the way, that annoyed the shit out of me. How ill-behaved are you that you're just jumping on someone's fucking RV?
Yeah.
That I was like, I'm not saying they deserve to be like kidnapped and killed, but I'm not saying they don't deserve it.
Okay.
Just gotta put that out there. Yeah. I just on the actor note, the brother, Keller, Ralph.
Mm-hmm.
It happens later, but he's acting against Hugh Jackman, and it's very obvious he's not as good of an actor as Hugh Jackman. But the thing about him is he was in a couple episodes of Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. as like a nerdy kid that was in like the S.H.I.E.L.D. Academy, but then turned into a guy with blizzard powers.
Cool.
And I just keep, every time I see his stupid face, I'm like, oh, that's that asshole from like 2 episodes of that show from a decade ago. For some reason, it's like burned in my fucking
Why
brain.
don't you use your blizzard powers to find the sister, idiot?
Yeah, what a piece of shit. Why don't you stop being young Charlie Sheen? Because that was the other thing I looked up on his IMDb.
He played young Charlie.
He was young Charlie Sheen in two young men, 2 half brothers. What's the name of that show?
Oh, 2.5 Men.
Yeah.
Oh,
I wasn't even faking it that time. I've literally never seen a second
no
of that show.
Should know that show.
Yeah. I'm like, I know there's a two broke girls. I don't fucking know.
two broke half men.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so then there starts a frantic search looking for them, and everyone's starting to freak out, and then we get introduced to Jake Gyllenhaal's character, who's alone on Thanksgiving having dinner at a Chinese restaurant.
Yeah, why not?
Yeah, he's got no family, and then in leaving that encounters the RV in question because it's now gone as well, and they stop it, pull out the driver. Who is it? It's Paul Dano. Playing
the Riddler himself.
Yeah, basically playing that same character, which I think is great that they, I mean, obviously this was well before, but that he gets typecast as these kind of weirdos.
I'm not disagreeing with the weirdo part, but I think the only real Riddler comparison is that they both wear really bad glasses.
Yeah, they're also like big weirdos. I mean, like he's a less coherent weirdo, but a big antisocial, not all together there person.
Yeah.
It's the kind of like Clint Howard would call him up and be like, "You've got the goods, kid. Like, I'm passing the torch on to you."
Contraria.
But yeah, so he's fantastic in this role. That being said, that he plays kind of weirdos a lot. Like, I do think this is still like a different individual, and he's a lot more sympathetic in this than other movies I've seen him in, including Swiss Army Men.
Oh, that was him, wasn't it?
Yes, it was.
Yeah. Huh. On that note, the mom, his quote mom, his aunt.
Yeah, Melissa Leo.
Looks like an older Steph Infection.
Yeah.
And she was on the episode with when we were talking about Swiss Army.
That's true. It's full circle.
I'm glad you brought that up because I didn't make that note because I was like, there's no way this is going to fit in the conversation.
Yeah.
And miraculously, it did.
Yeah, totally did. Again, big glasses. But anyway, if you want to know what we're talking about, go listen to that episode or listen to Steph Infection's podcast, TMI Tuesdays. Learn all about what's going on with her. But yeah, so they let Daddy Jackman know, and he of course is pissed because they're like, we got this guy. He has no idea what's going on. He is very mentally disabled.
They said he's got like the brain power of a 10-year-old.
Yeah, like he could barely answer or understand our questions. there's no sign of anything. We didn't find any.
Yeah.
And I realized, like, so there's a part where they've already questioned him, but there's a part where, like, you see in this giant garage, these guys, the forensics team doing, like, searching the car and stuff like that. And I was thinking about how that would be a fun job. But then I remember, then later I'm like, oh, but they probably also have to take the pictures of bloody kids' clothes. So that would be less fun.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah, they find murdered people.
Yeah.
That sounds like a terrible
That part's
job.
great, but if I could just tear apart cars and go, like, where do you want to plant the coke? I could do that.
Not for nothing. I'm just saying, like, just be a cop.
Yeah. No, that was for a while. I wanted to be, I think because of Twin Peaks, I wanted to be Albert Rosenfeld. I wanted to be a forensic pathologist. I was like, that seems cool. But then my brain was like, you're too dumb.
Because of Dexter, I wanted to do the same thing because I wanted to, like, try to hide my crimes.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Which, by the way, that reminds me, this movie kind of brings up, should I get an RV? Because I feel like it would help me get away with things.
I mean, I don't know if that's true, but you should definitely get an RV. You should get. There used to be an RV that would park by where I worked, like in around like 2012, something like that. That was like the RV in this movie, but it was stucco. Like it was like a pickup truck front, but the side of it was stucco somehow. It was just like, man, that's nothing good is happening in there.
Yeah, that's the nightmares are being made every day.
Yeah, it was very, very creepy. So I couldn't help but think of that thing.
Yeah. So Mr. Dover's all upset. He's yelling at Logie. That's what we're saying. The good acting is happening.
Yeah, because he's like Keller's whole thing. Hugh Jackman's whole thing is like action now, and Loki is a lot more like, we're gonna figure this out. Let's just calm down. This guy doesn't know anything. We have nothing to hold him on. We gotta let him go. And Jackman's like, I know it's him. Get him. Do what you got to do. Because even right at the gate, he's like, come on, these are two girls. Two little girls. What rule do you have to break? Is it going to be that bad to save the lives of two little girls? And Jake Gyllenhaal's like, no, we're not doing that. We have nothing to hold this guy on.
Yeah, this is that like bullshit American masculinity starting to show up of just like, break the rules, I mean, I get it. Like, your daughter's missing. I'm there for it. But as the movie progresses and, more and more, it shows that he doesn't actually have a moral center. It's very, very right-wing America.
Yeah, well, and that's a kind of, how do I want to put this? That was the thing that I struggled with in this movie a little bit because I'll wait till we get to it. But, I will say though, like already at the beginning, when you talk about the Jesus stuff, he's doing the prayer. He and his son are hunting a deer. This like son takes his first kill shot of the deer or something like that. And on the way back, Hugh Jackman is telling his son some fatherly wisdom and says like, you have to be ready for anything. No matter what happens, you got to be there to protect your family and just be ready. Well, yeah, I don't even know if he says protect your family, but just be ready. Earthquake, power goes out, whatever, you got to be ready. It's a sort of preppery mindset. And so immediately when things are out of his hands, he loses it. For as prepared as he claimed to be, just not emotionally capable of dealing with anything other than rage.
Do you think Mr. Dover, if he were a real person, would be like a huge Marjorie Taylor Greene fan?
That's a good question. I don't know, because I kind of feel like he wouldn't even want to get involved with politics. Like I could see him just being like, I'm just a straight, like he's more of the straight talking guy from like, not quite Tea Party, but like in that era of like Joe, I'm with Joe the plumber. I'm just a working man.
I feel like he'd probably end up finding her really attractive and then get into like QAnon stuff.
I mean, could be. I mean, the 20 teens broke a lot of people's brains, and 2020 didn't help either.
Speaking of which, so we're recording this on January 4th, 2024, and I would just like to say that on my 2024 bingo, I didn't think Stephen Hawking being involved in an orgy of underage girls was something that was going to come up.
Yeah, that's weird. That's a weird one.
Sorry, audience at home. I don't know what to do with that, and it's
I mean, I just like I'm speechless about it because it's well, he was in the flight logs, right? Like he was. That's it. Was there more stuff? Was there more like, oh yeah, he was in the ball pit at this?
I heard some quote saying that like there was an orgy like with underage people. Yeah,
but maybe he was doing science at it. He was like, I'm trying to figure out velocities of actions, and so he's just typing away on his computer while they're banging.
Do you know if you go fast enough, we're actually the same age? It's relativity. Let's find out how things can escape a black hole.
Ugh.
Oh, I'm
Gross.
reaching the event horizon.
No, but so Hugh Jackman fed up with this like letting this guy go nonsense. As they're releasing Alex, as Melissa Leo is picking up Paul Dano from the police station, Hugh Jackman pulls up and starts shoving him. You know, it's like there's all these reporters around, but he's like, "You know where they are. Tell me where the girls are." And he hears Alex tell him in a very small voice, "They were crying when I left them, or they weren't crying until I left them." And Hugh Jackman's like, "What the fuck does that mean?" Look, he knows something. He knows something, and Loki's still not buying it. They're not gonna get him for assault, but Loki's starting to question something's going on.
Let me pitch an alternate end to this scene that I just thought of. That'd be the funniest thing in the history of humanity. Paul Dano goes, "They weren't crying until I left," and then Hugh Jackman does like an ooh-woo face and go, "You guys were friends."
That's great. Yes,
just like hearts.
That's a
coming out of
better
the
ending.
eyes.
Uh-huh. Yeah, you should make that. You could make that yourself.
I could. I'm gonna start
Yeah.
working out so I could be the Hugh Jackman role.
No, I just meant digitally edit it. I didn't
No.
do a
What am I,
push-up.
lazy? I'm not gonna edit somebody else's work. Except for I do make money doing that. But yeah.
Keller is automatically convinced that if Alex didn't kidnap them, then he at least knows something. But he's pretty convinced that Alex kidnapped them.
Yeah, I mean Alex is sus as fuck, so it
Mm-hmm.
I follow.
I mean, he looks like Jeffrey Dahmer, and then like when he starts like staking him out, and he sees like Alex late at night walking a dog, and he picks the dog up by the leash and is like hanging it there
Yeah.
for a bit. That was extremely creepy.
Yeah,
and
I was wondering
unexpected.
how they did that. Like I know how you fake hang a human. I was like, how the fuck do you do that to a dog?
My guess is like is a harness of some kind that they just rotoscoped out later.
Oh yeah, that's probably right. Yeah. I just forgot that like computers exist.
Yep.
Because I don't, it's not like we're talking on one right now. So it's
No,
yeah. So concurrent to the problem with Hugh Jackman, I keep wanting to call him Mel Gibson because he had that movie Ransom, which I think was like, didn't his daughter get kidnapped or something? It was like not similar.
His son.
Yeah. And they're both Australian. They're both, I have suspicions about Hugh Jackman and his.
sure, yeah. The movie came to mind for me as well.
But concurrent to that, we get a side plot, which I really enjoyed a little bit of this and how it ties back into the later film of Jake Gyllenhaal tracing down other leads. So he goes to the 9 local sex offenders in a 10-mile radius of their house, which, by the way, East Coast is pretty fucking population dense. There's gonna be a lot more than 10 fucking registered sex offenders.
Small town.
Yeah, but it's.
And that's registered. Maybe,
Do you know how hard it is
maybe
to
you
get
got a
off
lot
that
of
registry?
New Hampshireites.
I mean, not that I would know, but just take it from a guy I know real hard. But he ends up going to a Catholic priest's house because apparently he's a registered sex offender. Shock. And the priest is passed out on the floor, so he kicks down the door and he's seeing what's up. He's hammered, and he finds he's like looks and sees hey, the fridge been moved over to the left here. I should probably check what's behind there. And he goes into what in England they'd call a priest's hole, which fun. And there's like a root cellar, and there's a one of the old Dharma initiative is down in there. Did you have that thought too? Because it's really hoping you did.
Yes,
Okay, good.
yeah. Well, it was kind of like the Dharma Initiative in that I spent a decent portion of the movie going like, well, so what was that about?
Yeah.
When is this going to come back up again? Because that's not going to be nothing.
It actually came back in this.
Yeah, that's kind. I mean, I don't know. Like this as a red herring, it's really like on the nose of like, hey, this was a thing. It's going to come back later. That I wasn't so stoked on, but
There was a couple of those. The whistle was another one. When they kept talking about the whistle, I'm like, I was 100% sure that was going to come back later in the movie.
Yeah, because as soon as like he's wearing a maze medallion, I'm like, well, that's going to be a thing. You didn't just pick that up and look at it to go like, oh, that looks cool. because because he gets the priest and makes him admit, the priest is like, no, he came to me and he said that he had killed a bunch of kids and he was happy about it and he was gonna get away with it and he was gonna kill more, and so I killed him.
Which seems fine.
And yeah, but that, I mean, just because that kind of goes away in this way that's not, it doesn't feel like there's escalations in the case for Jake Gyllenhaal's character anyway. You as the viewer are a little distracted by what Hugh Jackman gets up to, but like the fact that just kind of, the priest comes back a little bit right after that, but then it just sort of goes away. That it's like, well, that's just kind of a turd in the bathtub here. Like you're going to come back to this. So I'm pretty sure it's going to, all tie back to this somehow.
Oh, I see. So. Yeah. I mean, I kind of liked it. More so because I forgot about it enough. Like, I mean, I remembered that he had a necklace on, but I didn't like it. Wasn't. I mean, it's mostly because my brain is deteriorating. I can't do a full episode without me mentioning that. That I sort of forgot about it, and then when the whole maze stuff really started happening later in the film, I'm like, oh, that guy's medallion, which I think I'm like the absolute rube that he was looking for these scenes, because I was there for it.
Yeah, and it's one of those things. Well, we can talk about when we get closer, where just like that as an element, like thematically, you can argue about the meaning of the maze, not in the same way that say Westworld would, but about different approaches to tackling a maze or tackling problems the way that Jackman versus Gyllenhaal do it. But it just sort of felt like there was going to be more to it in terms of like plot wise or something like that than what is sort of like, why did they have the kids do mazes? Whatever. It doesn't really matter. But
the thing that kind of distracted me enough that like I didn't really, the very obvious hint didn't run home, was that there's a church in Southeast Portland that's got a labyrinth in the basement that you can walk around, like one of those walking labyrinth things, but it kind of looks like the thing around his neck. And since he was in like a priest's house, I was like, oh, is this some kind of like, in my head, I was like, oh, it's going to be in the basement of like a closed down church or something. I thought it was going in that direction. So I did.
Yeah. Like, well, that like, this is actually where they are.
Yeah.
They're, and I'm glad it wasn't that.
No, that would have annoyed the shit out of me if they went into a basement with one of those labyrinth symbols on the floor. It'd be like, come on, that's fucking easy.
Yeah, because as much as I will defend the first season of True Detective, I thought the last little bit with them being in this like labyrinth was a little much. The rest of it I thought was great, but that was a little too much. Because there's just been some discourse online recently, people complaining about how True Detective wasn't cosmic horror. And it's like, yeah, it shouldn't have been. It wasn't.
No, that wasn't. I hate when people misunderstand a villain with an interesting villain with a genius. Like, no, he's interesting because he got obsessed with dumb shit. He's like he's a dumb idiot like that got obsessed with a thing.
Well, I think it's just because they at the beginning, because it feels the whole show, much like this movie is permeated with dread. There's a lot of like, this movie does it, and I think there's something Villeneuve does a lot, regardless of who does the music. In this case, it was never mind, it was Johan Johansson, who I really like, but he did the same thing in some other movies where it's just this tone, this cello under everything, this cello drone.
By the way, did his parents just give up on naming?
No, it's a family name, clearly.
Yeah, it was covered in Johansson. We already got it. It's covered. You're Johansson. You don't need your name to be Johan.
Then, like, so if he didn't pass away and I don't know whether or not he had children, would that be Johan Johansson? Like, would it be like Gary Johan Johansson? Johansson. Like, how many sons do you have to name in your
I wonder if
last
it's
name?
Johansson's son.
It could be that. Yeah, that makes sense.
Son Johansson? Son Goku. It's all coming together.
Full circle. We've solved the labyrinth.
King Kamehameha. The killer's in Hawaii.
But the big thing here is that Hugh Jackman ends up kidnapping Paul Dano and begins to torture him for information. Hugh Jackman, there's reference to it earlier, his dad had a place that Hugh Jackman still has. Won't rent it out because there's too much fixing up that needs to be done. He's a contractor. And he knows there's too much fixing up that needs to be done for us to sell that place. And so it's boarded up. That's where he takes Paul Dano.
Wait, before we get into that,
beat the tar out of him.
Which I have things to say about that. Sorry, I didn't want to step on you there, but there's and this happened. It's revealed later, but let's talk about it now. I think the real reason he doesn't want to do anything with that is his dad blew his brains out in
Yes.
that building.
Yes.
Is there something there, or is that just interesting backstory? Like, was his dad a molester or something? I mean, I know that's a strange, but it seems like this movie is kind of playing, victimhood against itself and that kind of thing. He's a prison guard. Is there you're smart. Tell me if there's something there, John.
You're the damn writer. I think it's
but I've seen 8 movies. You know movies.
But I think it's like it's an ongoing sort of the themes of being a prisoner, that he's imprisoned by his own guilt and shame, I think, about that, but also that not wanting to be that, not wanting to like, oh, my dad just completely, bailed on me, and shot himself in the head and wasn't there for us. So I'm not going to be that guy. And so I'm going to totally be there, to the sense of overcorrecting, where it's like, I'm actually going to, and also it's revealed throughout the movie, it's revealed that he is an ex-alcoholic who it's unclear as to whether or not he's completely back on the wagon yet, whether that's a complete sham or he is indeed drinking.
I think it started as a sham and then he started drinking. Because I think
that's kind of the way I took it, but I do think it's open. But I think so. Some of that is there as well, with that sort of repeated action of himself. Maybe that was something that his dad struggled with as well. And so he's dedicated.
That
to that
actually rings true to me. That maybe that's what we're talking about, is that his dad was a inveterate drunk or whatever and ended up offing himself. Mm-hmm. So he brings Paul Dano to the building and starts torturing him. And this is where the kind of thematic thing I was talking about before of like kind of toxic male America, where in his head, he's saying, I either beat the shit out of this guy to get him to talk or my kids die. That there's only 2 options. Mm-hmm. It's a dichotomy. It's the only way Americans can think.
Yeah.
I know I'm an American, but fuck you. You know what I'm talking about, people at home. It's infuriating, especially the reveal that we get later is all of this is gross. And I like how gross they film it. Like this isn't sexy. This isn't like, this isn't
24.
Yeah. It's like Paul Dano's face is just bloated and gross. And it's not like, oh, I've been sexually beat up, which a lot of movies have. No, this looks like you've done permanent damage to this guy's face. And since we know that he's got the mentality of a 10-year-old, or at least we've been told that, there's this kind of like something of like, well, in order to get his daughter back, he has to destroy another 10-year-old, the mental age of the same thing. It's like, It's like a weird train problem, except he has no moral center and wasn't thinking about anything remotely like that.
Well, it's something that we've talked about on the show before, where it's something like where you're forced to make, the movie wants to play around with this choice. Like, is it a dream or not? Is like going back to Westworld, like, is he a robot or is he not a robot? At a certain point, you can just go, okay, well, if he is, it means X. If he's not, it means Y. I kind of don't care anymore. But the answers here are awful either way. It's like either he's correct and then like he beat the shit out of this guy to get the information, which is awful, that like that was the course of action that did it, or this movie is him just abusing a mentally disabled man.
Yeah.
And like that's gross too. So it there was no good answer there. It didn't, it wasn't hinged on necessarily its relationship to the plot as much as the act itself.
And then
was like, no, it's watching this guy go to these extremes.
It's somewhat, let's kind of spoil the reveal a little bit, because we're discussing this whole part. It's revealed that Paul Dano is actually a victim. He was the first victim of the serial abductors that we're dealing with here, and he's like literally a victim. He's a person that's been abused for 20-something years. That is fucked. Like, beyond just the fuck nature of what happened to him, but like also this fucking MAGA piece of shit just beat the shit out of him, going, I only have 2 options. I can either punch things or feel an emotion, and I can't deal with that. Like, it just the fucking gross America of it all, like really resonates, which I think is part of why I liked it. I was just like, because this is pre the kind of full, everybody took their masks off, kind of January 6th type.
Mhm.
That you just see like, oh no, this is the toxic masculinity that fed into that. You know, it's like
Yeah,
watching the
this wasn't
start
this
of it.
wasn't about owning the libs. This was just natural, pure American
Yeah, yeah,
derangement.
yeah. Just oh no, there's two options. It's two
Yeah.
options. One option is my fist hitting your face. Second option is you hitting the floor. I don't know if that's how
But
options work. I've never
no,
played the stock
that's
market.
absolutely. I bought a
Okay.
car. I'm pretty sure that's how options work. But yeah, so in doing that, he eventually introduces Terrence. I keep wanting to call him Terrence Malick, not
Oh,
the
it's
same
funny.
guy.
I keep
Uh,
trying to say Terrence. What's his name? Terrence Howard. I keep wanting to
Terrence
say
Howard.
Bryce Dallas Howard.
Yeah, very.
I know,
Yep,
I know, but
very
it's
close.
just like the Howard keeps
Yeah.
jumping places.
But he like eventually like he spills the beans to Terrence Howard. He's like, "You're gonna want to get in on this. This is a lot of fun."
Weird
No, he
choice.
doesn't put it like that, but
Yeah.
he's like because that's already that to me is extremely unhinged. The fact that you're like, but you still kind of get it that you'd be like, "Look, I know you're gonna want vengeance too, right? Why wouldn't you?" Like I'm on the divine path here. I'm right in what I'm doing because no one else is doing anything. So you want to get on this. And Terrence Howard is a little bit like, I don't know, man. This is your show. He doesn't like directly help, but he's also kind of involved until he goes to a vigil for the missing girls and just collapses under the weight of seeing that and just like thinking about what he's been a part
Yeah.
of because they have fucked up Paul Dano. They were hitting him with hammers. The box hasn't happened yet, but like he's all bruised up. They're beat that shit out of him. And so when he collapses, he totally spills it to Viola Davis. Just his wife confessed the whole thing. And you don't see it, which I like. I like the way when this movie sort of gives these ellipses at some key moments that I think work really well. Because I don't think it's about, like I said, it's not necessarily about the plot beats. It's about sort of the aftermath or the repercussions of these things. And I like her character a lot in this because she immediately goes wanting to help him. She sees how beat up Paul Dano is and is like unties him. But then he, like having a moment of freedom and being not all there, tries to escape, pushes her out, breaks a window, tries to stab people with glass because he just is a cornered animal. He's afraid and has been beaten severely. And she eventually comes to like this, I'm not going to help you. We're not going to help Keller do his shit, but we're not going to do anything about it.
Yeah.
We're just going to forget about it. And that is one of the most chilling things of all in this is that like, nah, like he's our friend and our daughter's missing. And yeah, I don't know. I'm not doing anything about it.
Yeah. This goes back to like the gross lack of morality in this movie. And they're not as gross because at least they're not looking at it. I mean, it's still fucking terrible, but they're not in the room, so I can see how you turn your brain off to it. But like, yeah, this is a Christian torturing a fucking somebody with a 10-year-old mentality. This is you going, oh no, I can turn our backs to that. Like, no, you're just complicit in it. That's horseshit.
Yeah, I don't have the emotional headspace for this right now. I'm dealing with a lot. So if you could hold off on doing that and get back to me when I'm a little bit clearer off.
Okay, I'm gonna give you 2-3 days. You have that poor 65 IQ guy tied to a radiator. No, keep breaking his hand. That's fine. 3 days or so, I'm gonna decompress. I'm gonna get.
Yeah.
I got a new goop shipment coming in. Everything's gonna be kind. I'm gonna sniff some bath salts. Everything's gonna be good. Then we'll talk about it.
Yeah, I'm at capacity right now. I don't think I can hold appropriate space for you.
Yeah. Gross. Everybody in this movie, everybody in this movie needs to understand morality, and they don't, and it's frustrating.
Yeah, because I mean, like, and that's the thing. So, like, I think Viola Davis plays that really, really well.
Yes.
And like, you see, like, it's what she's doing, what she decides to do is monstrous. But like everyone in this movie, like you understand why to a degree. Like you don't necessarily have to agree with it, but you can see where this is coming from, and where these decisions are coming from, and why these characters would make these choices. But so while I would like more with that character because I do think that's interesting, that's also a completely other movie. Not completely, but you know what I mean. Like you could spend another so long with just them, and the movie needs to kind of tighten up and focus on these folks.
Yeah, and then this leads to slightly out of order, but since we're on this topic, that Hugh Jackman, I keep wanting to say Mel Gibson, ends up building an isolation box in the room where he can get no light inside. And then he
Yeah.
also has shower heads set to either scalding or freezing to torture him more. But if you think about that, like, one, that's gross and like horrible. But like the second part of it is he logically said, like, not that he said it, but he couldn't look at it anymore. So he went, oh no, I'll literally just build a wall and then I can keep torturing them. You know, it's just this, way to be a Christian. And that's the part where he's like literally praying to God. He's like, at one point he says like, I'm hoping that I can eventually be forgiven or whatever, while you're still committing the fucking crime.
It was this thing that wasn't like, it was one of those, what do they call it? Like, better to ask forgiveness than to get permission or something like that. He's like, look, I'm doing this.
Yeah.
And you know, hey, you're God, you're going to work this out for me. Right, buddy? But, yeah, no, it's creepy. And this is when I started thinking about it being, like you said, like the American kind of thing, that like the dude that will buy the t-shirt off of Facebook that has all the different fonts. That's like, hey, say what you want about me, but as soon as you talk about my kids or my wife, you have unleashed the beast. And it's those people that are just like, just give me an excuse. Please just give me an excuse to like freak out. And he gets his wish. And like the fact that he just has this like, oh, you know what I should do is build this box. And like he has like an explanation for like where he got the idea. I forget what it is, but it didn't just like come out of nowhere. But at the same time, it is like, that's in you, that you figure like, oh, you know what I should do? I should hook up the shower so only I can control it, and either just freeze him or scald him. And then I'll just have a little hole that he can talk through. And then he'll crack. This whole like being mentally disabled, that's an act.
Yeah. It's kind of brutal. So as this is happening, there's the vigil that you referenced. Detective Loki's there, and he sees somebody in the crowd being real creepy to a teddy bear, and he's like, oh fuck, this is one of those, the victim always comes back, wants to still be involved in the crime. He chases him, and just fast forward a little bit, because we can't talk for 8 hours on this movie, because I think he figures out who David Dastmalchian is by calling he figured out a clothing shop serviced him and sold him child's clothes.
Yeah. So there starts to be news reports that like that there was a guy spotted being creepy, and it looked, you know, one of the suspects that may have seen him or something like that, and the sketch looks like David Dastmalchian. You see the wife, by the way, who I thought this was, I kind of liked this, that she's just like doped out of her head. That's how she's dealing with this. Yeah. She's just like tranquilized in bed, because I mean, I'm like, yep, that would be my move. I'd be like, this sucks. I'm just gonna, you know, I'm gonna hide under some coats until it's all over.
Yeah, not proud of it, but that would be my move too. Just like, fuck this. I do not want to deal with it right
honesty,
now.
Like that is not like, ooh, let me solve this, and just be like, nope, I've given up already. I'm doomed. Everyone's doomed. This all sucks. But while she's like doped out, David Dastmalchian is in the house.
Yeah, that's creepy as shit. Yeah.
And like goes into the daughter's room. And so it's real fucking creepy. Yeah. They eventually track him down. And Jake Gyllenhaal remembers their interaction, the chase at the vigil, confronts him, and Dastmalchian tries to bolt again. He arrests him, gets him down on the ground. The house he lives in, it's got shit scribbled everywhere. And this is one of the most chilling shots. If you know what's coming, it's a little bit perhaps less so, but that initial shot, he goes upstairs, opens the door to this room, and there's all these like giant tubs and like with equipment crates,
air holes.
They're locked.
Air holes popped in the tub. Yeah, real creepy.
Yeah, and it's just, and I'm like, there's no way. And I started to think about like for how heavy this movie is. I'm like, this is almost cartoonish enough that they're like super villainy enough that it would kind of deflate that a little bit. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, yes, I have 16 kids tied up in this. Like, that's an insane amount of children to just have in it. Not that there's a right amount, but you get what I'm saying. Like, just that sort of extreme. Yeah. But he opens it up and they're all full of snakes and the children's clothes. Yeah. And he finds out like and they take the Jake Gyllenhaal. They of course arrest him. They have the families identify the clothes, and Hugh Jackman is like, "You waited too long. This is because of you."
Dude, that is the scene that I was like so impressed with Hugh Jackman. There's two parts where Terrence Howard walks out, and Hugh Jackman's face of like realizing that he ID'd things, and oh god, it's so good. And then when he sees her sock in the flip book, just the pure loss. It was, oh man, that guy. I was like, man, this guy's good at acting. You're so good. I forgot your dumb accent.
It was great. And then he's also like starts wrestling this thing of like, well, okay, but Alex has got to be in on it though. He said that shit. That, you know, like, oh, he said that thing to me. I know that he knows. Like, Alex has also said a couple of like weird things in the box, but then, you know, it's like you're dealing with a mentally disabled man who has just been unbelievably tortured. That this man, like, you've been beating the crap out of him. How much sense do you expect him to make? But so he's even more though convinced that he's on the right path. Like, that does not dissuade him at all because he can't back down from this.
Yeah.
They're like, well, okay, we have this David Dastmalchian guy. He's probably the bad guy. He says he knows something. He's been drawing all these mazes.
Oh, that's right. They bring him into the station. That's how that yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. And you got a book that's like, if you can solve these mazes, then you can go. And so you're like, oh, I remember the maze on that guy's necklace. Oh, I wonder, what's going on there? Is this like some cabal or something like they had in I forget if that Minnesota or something? There was a bunch of places where there were a bunch of sex creeps. But no, David Dastmalchian ends up getting a hold of a cop's gun and shoots himself.
Which, by the way, gotta be embarrassing. Like, I know all cops are bastards, yada yada, but like, it's gotta be real embarrassing if like your one job is to like keep a guy in a room. And you can't even fucking do that, right? You still manages to grab your gun and blow your fucking down. Like, dude, that's fucking embarrassing.
Well, Dana Gould had that whole joke about the cop in the white hat in the I almost said LBJ, the guy that shot Kenny. What's his name? Why am I blanking on that guy's name?
Lee Harvey Oswald.
Lee Harvey Oswald. When Jack Ruby shoots him, the guy next to him in the hat is like, oh, and Dana Gould had a whole joke about how every other cop that worked with that guy would make fun of him for doing that. Funny. And then I guess he found out that was true, that they were indeed doing that. But yeah, that guy is going to be made fun of for the rest of his life. So he's the real victim if you think about it. But so that lead is gone. But they figure out that it wasn't him. All the blood they found was pig's blood. And he's just like reenacting something.
Yeah.
He also had this book that was about a kidnapper that vanished without a trace, that kidnapped a bunch of people. That's where he got the ideas for this stuff.
You know, it's fun.
But the book had been debunked. I thought that was an interesting thing. It wasn't like, turns out there's a mastermind. It called into question whether or not that was real or not.
Well, you know, it's funny you brought up True Detective, because this is very much a True Detective thing of the fans going over every little page of The King in Yellow and like trying to find something. And it's just like, no, it's just some dumb book. They just made a movie about it. They just made a TV show. Like, it's not.
The guy called himself that because it sounds.
Yeah. There's nothing to it. Yeah. It's a debunked book from the 70s or whatever. Like, yeah, I read a few pages. It's stupid.
Yeah. So there's weird connections though. Like the forensics guy is like, yeah, this is bullshit. But Jake Gyllenhaal is like, but wait a minute. There's still stuff that's not explained.
Yeah.
So he's not convinced. You know, case is not closed yet.
Yeah, and his boss, Jake Gyllenhaal's boss, is like, look, man, you're done. Like, we're done with this. There's no more evidence. You got a guy, he's dead. Get the fuck out of here. So Jake Gyllenhaal goes back to his desk and, like, in a fit of rage, knocks everything off his desk and then breaks his keyboard, which actually I felt like that must have been really cathartic. I don't know if Jake Gyllenhaal's ever actually worked a desk job, but I would love to smash the shit out of a keyboard. That feels like it'd be great.
Oh, yeah. Well, there was that famous, old internet video now of that guy in an office just, like, busting up his keyboard and everything.
Yeah, that sounds nice.
Yeah.
But
still
in his
good.
pictures, he sees the necklace with the labyrinth on it from the dead body found in the priest's basement. He's like, what the ever living fuck? Look at this. It's got something to do with it. And I don't remember what that is. Why was that? Why did that matter?
There was just a lot of maze stuff happening.
It didn't actually matter because he just said, "Oh, everything's connected," and his kind of colleagues were like, "Dude, calm the fuck down. No, who cares?"
Well, and it started being that it's really convenient that Alex has gone missing, and because he's starting to suspect Keller, he's followed Keller, and Keller has found out he's been following him, and they have an interaction. But then, one second. Like at this point, it's not Joy. I'm sorry. It's not Eliza. It's Joy is the other daughter. I thought it was Eliza.
I think there is an Eliza in the movie. That might be Viola Davis's name.
Nope, it's Zoe Soul. That might be. You know who that is? That's the older sister. That's Viola Davis's other daughter.
Yeah,
is
yeah,
Eliza.
because I knew that name was in there somewhere.
When Joy comes to, she's able to get out. Not Anna, but they found Joy, and Joy like comes to and is like, remembers seeing Hugh Jackman and kind of freaks out. And we skipped over, but Hugh Jackman, allegedly to make amends, but also just to get more information, goes to Alex's house to talk to Alex's mom, aunt, whatever, Holly, played by the aforementioned Melissa Leo. And she finds out that she and her husband were preaching the good word. They had a kid that died, and they were hurt, and so they adopted Alex. And it's been tough, but things are good. And that's when he finds out that David Dastmalchian has killed himself, because it's like in the newspaper, and he had no idea.
Which, brother, I love this backstory of the child dies, so they adopt Alex. There's something really I don't know. It's good writing. There's something really, I don't want to use the term satisfying. I mean satisfying on a narrative level about that.
Yeah, no, I like that. How the meaning of that changes. I like, but so when this happens, I'm like, well, what? Please don't tell me it's something where it's like he's been the killer all along.
Oh, I had that thought for a second too.
Yeah. But I was like, that's too stupid. Yeah. There's no way the movie's going to do that. And I was angry that I even thought about it. But I think that's, at the same time, that's good that it was like, well, yeah, obviously. I do think there are some red herrings that kind of hang pretty big. Not necessarily that lead you to a certain solution, but like I said, the dead guy with the methadone was a little bit like, okay, when are we getting back to that? But so he figures out, it's, how would she have seen me? Where was I? I've only been at home, at the torture place, or the time he went to the Joneses. Which the kid's name is Alex Jones.
I forgot to mention that. Yeah.
Paul Dano being Alex Jones is great. But
the mazes are making the frogs gay.
I had so much chili, I forgot to kidnap a child.
Awesome. I forgot about that one.
He goes there again under this guy's like, well, I feel like I should pay penance. I noticed that your stairs are rickety. Can I fix them? And she knows what he's up to immediately.
Wait. By the way, I know I've been dunking on Keller Dover, whatever the fuck his name is.
Mm-hmm.
That lady opens the door with the most obvious "I'm hiding a gun" move that I didn't expect her to have a gun, and then she's got the most obvious. Yeah, there's obviously a gun under there. I mean, there's nothing else.
It's like, I burned my hand. She's wearing a towel over her hand. It's like,
it is the most gun-shaped towel that's ever fucking toweled.
It's like she's holding it with two hands. Why are your hands cocking? Don't worry about it. But she's like, okay, well, you want to see your daughter again? You got to drink this disgusting stuff that I've made. That's like, probably soda and cough medicine or something. I don't know, but it's to knock him out. And she starts giving this whole speech about how, like, yeah, she and her husband have kidnapped kids. And, cause after their child died, they realized there was no God. So this whole justification of like, we're a silent war against God just felt really Papa Roach lyrics.
Papa Roach. Yeah, I'm impressed with the poll. I never in a million years would have come up with Papa Roach.
I've been listening to it all day. Fair enough. Yeah. Cut my life. In
that case, resort. I'm less impressed. I like that you just pulled. I like that you pulled into 1998 in your brain, and
that's where it is. That's all enough. I got. But yeah, I just thought that was a little weak because it's just, again, like it becomes this sort of like super villainy thing. Yeah. It becomes this like, not like, oh, well, my husband was a predator and then I got like roped. It was just this like, yeah, so we're like the way that people in the 70s and 80s thought of Satanists and what they were really up to.
Yeah.
And for all, like I said, for all the difficult questions that were happening to lead to this. And then it's like, Alex is not involved at all. Alex was there because he was the first one that they captured. Yeah. And basically, like, so you don't know if they basically like fucked him up so bad he's developmentally disabled, or he was already that way and they just, helped out.
Yeah, and this goes back to that like kind of stupid like, well, he is a church going guy and they're not church going people, but they're the same in the end. It's just a little, I don't know, it just kind of it left me slightly wanting. I did like
yeah, so I mean, it's still a good movie, but it's just at a certain point, it's like, oh yeah, this is just a police
that's the problem with the third act.
It's got these trappings of other things.
Well, and the third act thing of Jake Gyllenhaal goes to character lady's name, the aunt, Uh,
Holly,
Holly,
because
yeah.
well, they find out because he knows the street that Hugh Jackman was trying to go to once when he was following him, but couldn't figure out what was there. And then when he's looking up shit about Hugh Jackman, that's when he finds out about his dad killing himself, and they give his full address in the newspaper article, because that's where his body was found. I guess that's where he used to live. Jake Gyllenhaal's like, bingo, I'm gonna go check that place out, and it's boarded up. He's already been there once or twice already, but I forget what cracks him to go check it out, but he goes and checks it out and finds Alex. And then the boss is like, you're going to go tell his mom that you found him. I don't want to hear about Keller. Just go tell his mom. I'm pulling you off this to go tell his mom. And he goes to tell the mom. And this is the second time that Jake Gyllenhaal's like, Warrants Schmorrance, I'm just entering the house.
Yeah.
Because like in the first time, he sees the downed priest. These things, maybe this guy's in trouble, whatever. There is nothing that happens that makes him go, you know what I should do?
Well, I took that as he had developed a friendship, and I guess I'm, I feel like I'm allowed to just walk in her house and be like, hey, Jody, home,
Yeah, it doesn't, I mean, he wasn't there to like, arrest anyone or do anything. He was there to drop some bad news, but still it was just like, damn, he just walks right in anywhere.
Yeah. And when he's in, he notices the picture on the mantle of her ex-husband, and he looks at it, and he's got the labyrinth necklace on. That's the body in the priest's basement. Wait a second. She must have killed 16 children, just like that guy, or at least the pederast priest said, which I know between you and I, the most trustful people in the world are priests that have been convicted of sex crimes. Because you take their word as gospel, and I mean that pun, baby, up there, Jesus Christ.
Well, that's the thing that I thought was a little strange in that, so the priest had like no information about who this guy was, but also that, and I don't know how this all works, but there is clearly in the movie, there's demarcations of time passing. There was no rush to identify this guy at all. I don't know how long this shit takes in the real world versus movie.
Well, I think they said
like an Arnold Schwarzenegger movie.
I think they said no
like
dental, no DNA, no fingerprint. So
maybe I missed that because it just felt like no one's going to figure out who this guy is and leave it
they
back.
rattled off
that
like a sequence of things to identify people. Now I don't know if there's like extra steps you can take. I don't fucking know.
Yeah. Just because I thought he had some hair.
Because here's the thing. This is the problem with like the kind of foreshortening of time that's happening. And I know every middle-aged person says that, but I mean that in a movies become worse by the existence of cell phones.
Oh yeah.
Medical technology or forensic technology getting better makes movies worse as well. This movie is the bleeding edge of when you can get away with, oh yeah, there's no record of you. No. I guess you're intimating that this happened in because if you really do the math, that guy probably died in the 90s. We had pretty good records back then. We'd cracked genomics at this point,
Yeah, just or anything, but which I really are. There's not a lot of cell phone action in this movie. Which now that you mention it,
yeah. The aunt traps Hugh Jackman by drinking the juice. She throws him in a pit underneath the Trans Am.
That's where she hid the girls when the cops came nosing them around.
Jake Gyllenhaal shows up, gets shot, glancing blow to the head, shoots the aunt dead, and has a really tense car drive to the hospital because the daughter's been injected with some kind of something. And oh my God, the way they kept shooting through a really hard to see through windshield was making me really tense.
In his eye it was very well done. And I think, because I was thinking about that, the length of this movie, and that there are some not necessarily, the whole movie is very sort of slowly paced, but that there's some stretches where it seems a little long, but I liked how much time they spent with this, because that really heightened the, you don't know if someone's going to make it or not, or whether they're going to get into a car accident. The way though that it was, that kind of, like I said, for how cartoonish some of their explanation was okay, well, some of the tension of that was gone away, because I'm well, there's no way they're going to let anything bad happen. Now that's too ridiculous to then have this happen. But it's also but at the same time I was still feeling it. So it was effective filmmaking that, I was, the emotions were still there, even though my brain wasn't. But they get there, and then Hugh Jackman is still trapped under the Trans Am, and is like searching around. He's got like a little flashlight and finds his daughter's whistle. So come full circle on that. And then Loki gets out of the hospital. We see the daughter getting wheeled in. And I really, really like this moment because the mom, both moms, both kids are there, wheels in and is like, we just wanted to bring her in here. Loki's getting ready to leave the hospital. He's all bruised up. Just like meet her hero and say thank you. And the kid is just dead-eyed staring at him. There's just like nothing there. Like, because at first I'm like, is this like resentment? Is she mad? What's the thing? But she's just still processing all of it. Because I'm not that I enjoy this to children, but I always like that when horror movies or things like that bother to do that. Like the end of, I think a lot, it's not necessarily a great movie, but the end of 8mm. And I think I've mentioned it on the show before. We're like, at the end of the movie, Nicolas Cage is destroyed by what he's seen
for real,
and what he's experienced. That he's like, yeah, I get through it, but I'm this now. This sucks. And so like this like happy moment, and Loki feels it too. Loki's like just like sees her, is like, oh boy. But hey, you saved the day. It's still a W's a W. But he goes back to the Joneses' house and standing out back, just kind of taking it all in, and he hears a faint whistle.
Yep.
And then the movie ends. And I like that because it doesn't forgive Hugh Jackman. Like the movie could have ended and that's it for, he could have stayed down there. But there's an element of like, well, so he could get found. We don't know if he finds one out. Probably he does, but then he's got to pay for his actions.
So the bleaker ending that I was picturing is more along the lines of Jake Gyllenhaal driving away and you hear the whistle, like that he's just going to starve to death under there. It's a little Tales from the Crypty. Because there's a few other ways that are like, this could have, but no, I like that end. I think it was good. So here's the last, going back to, beating the drum of the toxic masculinity. Keller's wife in the wrap up, when she says, oh, give me a moment. I want to talk to the detective by myself. And she says, and this is close enough to quote, I was trying to type it out quickly. He did what he had to do to find Anna. And I thank God for that. He's a good man. Yeah. No, he is not. What he did was torture an abuse survivor for days on end.
Yeah.
And that had barely anything to do with finding your daughter. This is horseshit. And one of the daughters got away. So what you did was trade one daughter for it's just gross. You can say, I'm glad it worked out well. That'd be fine. But like, this is such a just that gross. There's only two ways to think about something. America way of doing, and I'm only shitting in America because I live here. Maybe other countries are like that. They probably are, but I can only go for this one. And this is just I thank God that he had to do what he had. That's not what he had to do. He could have thought about things. He could have.
But it's again, you're another kind of prisoner, man. It's that just you're convincing yourself of this because the reality of it is too much otherwise. It's the same thing, in a way, it's what Viola Davis does as well. Because I'm sure Viola Davis wasn't like, no, that he should not have done that. Because she doesn't want to, she wants to have her hands clean to the whole thing.
Yeah, he's a good man. He's not a good man. Fuck you. So my review is that I'm going to watch more of this guy's films because I really like it. Like he's an amazing filmmaker. I liked it. Watch it.
I enjoyed it. I think it's good. Like I said, it's got its ups and downs, but the ups are worth it. It's a tough watch. It's grim.
Yes, it is grim. But speaking of things that aren't grim, let us give some recommendations. And I would like to start because mine is bullshit, but I want to tell you all about it. I'm going to recommend to you twitch.tv/verbalex, VERBALEXX. So I've gone back into Twitch streaming, and I've been enjoying it, and I have literally 0 viewers. So of all y'all out there, if anybody's on you're a Twitch person, at least subscribe. I mean, you don't have to follow. The one you don't have to pay money. I haven't even been on enough that you can even give me money. Do the follow or whatever. If I'm on, you can see me. I'm playing Hollow Knight right now, and I'm enjoying it. It's actually really interesting to play, not in front of a crowd in quotes, because there's no one there, but I'm better at it because I there's this weird implied pressure of performance because
no, I get it.
Twitch.tv/verbalex.
That's why I don't Twitch stream my playing Pressure Wash Simulator because I do that for me.
Yeah. Also, I
think
your commentary of
Yeah,
yeah.
doesn't help. Like it's well, what I try to do is I try to harmonize with the pressure washer. Actually, I think it's Power Wash
Yeah,
Simulator.
whatever.
But I have been playing that game like
Yeah,
nonstop.
I've had
It's
2 different people I like on, watching Twitch stream get obsessed with that game.
it's just a butch version of one of those adult coloring books.
Yeah,
Is
yeah,
basically
totally.
what it is. But I find it. I
You know
like
what the
a lot.
most butch thing in the world is? Using the term
What?
butch.
Oh yeah, I do that a lot. I say I have to convince people that I'm butch, so I say that. Me, since it's been a while since the last recording, I close out the year watching a ton of movies, but the ones that I will recommend, 2 big ones. I watched Tar with Cate Blanchett. Really, really good. Can't recommend it enough. She, of course, is amazing in it, and it's another movie that's very sort of slow, but when it gets going, and I think she really holds it all together. Really enjoyed that one. And then I also watched The Apple, which is one of the most insane movies I've ever seen. It's if you're at all familiar with Golan Globus, this was directed by, I think, Golan. And it's this wacko musical. And I had the opportunity to see it on the big screen, which I think is the best way to see it, because if I was watching at home,
You went to a theater to watch it? Wow.
I went to the theater to watch it. It was
that's
a
not
special.
lame. It was just a surprise.
No, it was a special screening. We knew some people at a theater, and they're like, "This is what we're doing on Christmas Day. Do
That's
you want
awesome.
to come watch
Yeah.
it?" And we're like, "Oh yeah, sure." And it's just insane. And I keep thinking about the movie.
Yeah.
Like it's like it's worked in that way. But so the Apple,
Fuck
I
yeah.
guess, but definitely Tar. Definitely recommend that one. And this is what I was going to say earlier. I know it just came to Netflix today. I don't know if the show itself is any good, but Delicious in Dungeon, I think it's called. Or
Oh, I keep getting that ad. Yeah.
yeah. So that just came today. Maybe the show is good, don't know, but the comic is
Oh, that's cool.
fantastic. Love the comic. So I think the comic just recently wrapped up. I never got all the way to the end. I got caught up, and I haven't been back since it kept going. But read it through at least twice. Love it. It's fantastic. A lot of fun. Highly
On that
recommend.
note, on a less self-serving note of a recommendation, Pluto is also on Netflix, based on what do the Japanese call it? A manga, Japanese manga.
A manga, yeah.
But Pluto's super good. I think I recommended this to you off air. It's like 7 episodes that are like an hour a piece, maybe 6, maybe 4, some amount. Either way, good. You should watch them.
If you like that, also if you like Pluto, check out Monster. I don't know the anime, but it's done by the same author, I think.
Yes. John, I would challenge you, good sir, as to what this audience can listen to us discuss. Hey, Freud, your phone's ringing.
Well, basically that on a loop for 2 hours. We are going to watch next time. We're going to watch Academy Award winning filmmaker Emerald Fennell's Saltburn. She won an Academy Award, I believe, for Promising Young Woman, which a lot of people did not like. Controversial movie. Some people liked it, some people hated it. And that's what I found with Saltburn. Some people liked it, some people really hate it. Very excited to have opinions.
So we will see you in a fortnight to discuss Saltburn. Bye.
Goodbye.